All right, and then Vivian, if you want to share our screen. The way this is going to work is we are going to share a little bit about UNASA and then we'll get into time for questions. But first of all, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. However you found out about UNASA, we're glad you did. And we're glad that you're here to see if UNASA is right for you. I'll introduce myself. My name is Nicole Fugit, and I am a senior program manager at the Institute for Educational Advancement. So I manage UNASA, and I also manage our Academy Enrichment Program as well. So if you're ever looking for enrichment in the LA area or online, I'm also involved in that program, and I also manage our high school mentorship program and our partnership with our local school district. So I'm involved in many things, but UNASA is definitely the most unique and out of the box of the things that I do. And I've been with IEA since 2017. So I've been involved for quite some time, and I've been attending UNASA since 2019.
Hi everyone, my name is Vivian Arceo. I'm the program coordinator specifically for UNASA. So anything from the application process to these webinars to our campsite, you can refer to me. It's my first year here at IEA, but I have done my own share of going to a couple of camps over the past couple of years as a counselor. So I'm familiar with that aspect. And yeah, any questions you have for UNASA, you can feel free to streamline them to me. Uh, and then we can go ahead and get started. Some of the things that we have on our agenda going into the day, we'll just give you kind of a brief scope about what UNASA is. So we'll introduce you to some of our traditions and like what UNASA looks like. Then we'll go into specifics about what the differences between UNASA West and UNASA East, our two camp sessions that we have over the summer. We can go into the next steps referring to camper eligibility and our application process, and then we'll leave some time for the end for any Q&A or questions that you might have.
Yeah, and along the way, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Either we will answer them as they come through, or we will save them for the end if they kind of don't fit into something else we're talking about. But I'll keep an eye on the chat, so feel free to pop questions in there as they come to mind. Yeah, right off the bat, we just wanted to go into what the mission of UNASA is. So UNASA allows campers to nurture balance, embrace their whole self, work with experts in gifted education, explore nature exploration, connect with like-minded mentors, engage with staff with a high staff to camper ratio, and find a sense of belonging. So we are all about the community that UNASA creates. We strive to create an accepting community of belonging and help gifted kids and those who sometimes might think of themselves as just their brain or just in an achievement focused mentality, or maybe they struggle with anxiety, help them befriend their brains and figure out, get closer to figuring out at least who they are outside of just their brain, their whole self, and push their comfort zones in the different aspects of who they are to be more well-rounded and be better equipped to face the challenges of uh, being who they are in such a demanding and achievement-based world. So that's a lot, and we can get more into how we do that.
Yeah, kind of as Nicole was saying, something that we like to do with our programming is nurturing the whole self. So it's looking beyond the intellect and finding ways that our campers can balance their social, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, and physical selves. And so we do this through a lot of our programming that we'll have throughout our camp. We have what we call psychosynthesis. Nicole can go ahead and explain that in a later. Slide. We also have forms of yoga. We have our fellows who will introduce also in the next slide, who lead a series of workshops that help our campers develop their better selves. And this helps create cross-generational conversations that goes from our fellows to our campers, as well as our campers to our counselors, many of who are our UNASA alumni We have also a series of camper options that are available for campers to participate in throughout the week, and all other sorts of camp activities that you would find at a normal summer camp. So, like Nicole was saying, one of our big reasonings for bringing this type of programming together is so that our campers can build a sense of community and find a sense of belonging during their weeks at camp.
And I can go ahead and explain psychosynthesis while we're here. It's a big word, so it's always one of the first questions we get is what is psychosynthesis? And it is a mindfulness exercise that we introduce every camper to while they're at camp, and it's essentially guided imagery. So we know that many of our campers, because of the population we serve, have a lot going on in their brains all the time. And simple traditional meditation is difficult for them. It's difficult for everyone, but especially for our population that has very active minds. And so we kind of use that, we use those active minds, those active imaginations, uh, and help them befriend their brains. And so they're walked through scenarios where it's guided imagery to just help them calm down. You know, they'll visit a river that's rushing. They'll imagine the sunshine on them. So getting them in touch with um, their senses and in touch with techniques that can help them calm their minds, get themselves grounded in the present, and calm the thoughts that are often swirling around in their brains. So they do have a session to do psychosynthesis every morning. It's listed as an hour or so on the schedule, but they're not just sitting there doing one meditation that entire time. It'll be a couple minutes, then they'll talk about it, they'll stretch break, couple minutes, talk about it, stretch break. And we introduce the campers to all sorts of different mindfulness activities and techniques. And we're not forcing anyone to take anything into their lives back home. It's okay if it doesn't, work for them. We just like to throw some things out there and have them try it out. And if they only ever do it at UNASA, that's totally fine. If it isn't for them, that's totally fine. But as we try to help our campers nurture their whole selves and find balance, we like to give them some possibilities of how that might work for them. So psychosynthesis is one of those ways. And our fellows and facilitators each lead a psychosynthesis group. So that's why it was helpful to talk about what psychosynthesis is first. Um, these are some of the fellows and facilitators, perhaps all, we're still finalizing things, of who we will have this summer. And each of these people leads a group and leads those psychosynthesis sessions I just talked about each day. So this is sort of like their homeroom, their home base for the week. Each camper has a group of like 12 to 15 uh, campers that they're in a group with led by one of these amazing individuals who are all experts in some way, shape, or form in gifted kids, in emotions, in big feelings, in all sorts of things that all sorts of different expertise that are helpful in the camp world. And they can go to these people for anything, but that doesn't mean they're the only of these adults that they interact with the entire week. So campers still get to know all of the fellows and facilitators. They just have one who's kind of like their main person that they're meeting with every morning in those groups. We're lucky to have some really amazing people. I don't need to go through all of them, but I'm open to answering questions about them later and about their backgrounds. Um, and I'll start off talking about the kinds of things that fill the day at UNASA because they are very full days. We definitely tire them out, make sure everybody sleeps well. So I'll go into some things that we do, and then Vivian will talk about some of the other things that we do in our very full days. I talked about psychosynthesis already. So that is about an hour in the morning after breakfast. There's also some time for yoga or other mindful movement. We kind of mix it up with what those options are, but every day starts with a little bit of movement. Uh, we also do something called Heart of the Matter, which It's basically an opportunity for each of those groups to share what's going on for them. We make sure there is a licensed therapist in the room, but it's not therapy at all. And there is a lot of guidelines about what can be shared, but it's just an opportunity for them to share what's going on for them. Homework is stressful, sibling dynamics, things like that, that are age appropriate for where they are in their development, and then share advice and similar experiences to help foster that feeling of belonging and like they're not alone in the world. So we call that Heart of the Matter. Uh, we also start the day very first thing with call in directions. I can answer more questions about that later, but essentially we greet the day, and it's a really beautiful way to greet the day and face each direction. And in a big circle, you'll see some of those photos throughout. And the campers can yell out when prompted different things that they're essentially welcoming into their day, that they're looking forward to about the day. And I always really enjoy it. We work hard at camp, and hearing those things that the campers yell out is great encouragement and really sets the tone for a day of branching out and positivity. And it's a really wonderful tradition that we have. So that's call and directions. The other ones are a little more self-explanatory. So we have a variety show each week where campers can put on an act where we have everything from speed Rubik's Cube solving to more traditional, like musical acts or skits. So that is always a big highlight, lots of laughter, as well as with our campfire, where it's more of the leadership and counselors putting on a show for the campers. We have a movie night, which is a nice time midweek to just chill. There's been a lot of kind of on time. Movie night is you zone out and let your social battery recharge. Everyone always loves that. And we have the theme or the movie kind of fit with our theme of the week usually as well. We also at Yunasa West, we have a labyrinth, which is kind of like a mindful maze that actually over the years Yunasa has built and maintains. So even though Yunasa is only at Camp Shady Brook in Colorado for 1 week a year, we have built and maintained a labyrinth on a hill next to camp that their campers for the rest of the year use as well. So that is our gift back to camp, and it's fun to walk, or it's very special and meaningful to walk, and also fun for the campers to continue to contribute to it and maintain it. And we always have some trail cleanup and moving rocks around for those that want to participate. It's not a requirement, but it's fun for them to give back. And then we also have fellows workshops. We can get more into what those are, but um, essentially there is a block each day of an hour and a half fish, and the campers get to choose which fellows workshop they participate in. So when I went through who the fellows are, even though they have one who is their group leader, they can choose workshops so that they end up working with everyone.
I'm kind of going into now some of the more adventurous activities that some of our campsites provide that allow the campers to get to utilize the outdoor environment and kind of get to have some fun at camp. We have options such as archery, rappelling, paddleboarding, and zip line. We also have a challenge course in our campsites, along with the climbing tower, a gaga ball, horseback riding, the waterfront, canoeing, kayaking, and fishing. So those are some of the additional camper options that our campers can go to and kind of be adventurous while they're at UNASA as well.
Yeah,
And
so go ahead.
oh, sorry. Just kind of going off of what Nicole was saying, we also have these are some of our examples of our fellow workshops. So, some of the things that your campers could look toward doing is we've had nature art before, soul collage, mindful movement, improv, and creative writing.
Yeah, so those are general categories, but we have so many different things that we do, more creative, like visual arts type things, more writing, more improv, music, and then also more intellectual things to learn about how their brains work. So this little smattering that we put here could never even scratch the surface. We have lots, and we have ones that even get developed midweek because we hear there's an interest in them. So the fellows put something together. So we have, yeah, they have a wealth of knowledge, and they know what our campers are into, and it's always exciting to see what they come up with.
So, kind of getting into the differences between Yunasa West and East. I know that this question was also asked in the chat. So, asking about our age requirement. Our age requirement for both camps is 10 to 15-year-olds, and that is during the duration of our camp sessions. So, for Yunasa West, that'll be during June 6th through Saturday, or Saturday on June 6th through Saturday, June 13th. Um, we do require that campers are 10 by the time that they arrive at camp. So if they are interested in participating, but they're not of age until after the camp session, you can always show interest and start seeing about maybe participating in virtual UNASA or other programs that we have, and then we can help you prepare for an application for a later summer. But for UNASA West, we are located in YMCA Camp Shady Brook in Deckers, Colorado. We have a full leadership program, so that's for our campers that are transitioning out of age for our camp session. And so those will be our 15-year-olds who take on a leadership one role. Um, and then when they're 16, we usually have leadership two campers who take on more of the initiative of a camper counselor in training. And they get to experience a more hands-on role to be a positive role model for some of our younger campers. At this location, we primarily have about 80 campers that attend. So it is one of our bigger campsite or camp sessions where we get a lot of our applications. And then I'm going to go into the next things where we can kind of show.
I was just going to say, oh,
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say one more thing about the age. That is out of our control. It's a licensing issue. So we do have to have campers have be age 10 and up. That's what our license is for. So even if we wish we could be flexible, that is not on us. So yeah, we are looking forward to having them in another summer, future summer, but they have to be 10 for the whole camp or older. But yeah, we can look at some pictures of Yunasa West, and I can talk a little bit about what we have going on here. So Yunasa West has horseback riding, which Yunasa East does not. So that's one of the distinguishing factors. If that super matters to you, that is one of the things that makes them different. In general, they have very similar programming. So if I say there's a way that makes them different, it's a small thing. So horseback riding is at West and not East. Uh, the bottom picture is the lake that we have at Yunasa West, which is a lot smaller than the lake at Yunasa East, which is my virtual background. It's quite a large lake at East. So another small difference. We have a lot of the same activities, but just wanted to talk about those. It's beautiful at Yunasa West. These are some of the camper options. We have the climbing wall on the left as well, and then kayaking on the bottom. And then I feel like we talk a lot about the camper options, and we do keep the kids really busy, but there is some downtime. So I just wanted to include some photos of them just hanging out. We've got a chess game going on. We have cards are always very popular. And this is also to show you what the dining hall looks like. This is sort of our main inside space while we're at Camp Shady Brook. So this is the dining hall. It's where they eat, and it's where some of the hangout time happens. And maybe you're hearing all this and your child just the zip lining, the kayaking, not really their thing. I just wanted to say there's lots of creative things that we do here too. There's we tie-dye shirts every year, so that left picture is a stack of the shirts that are waiting to go back to their owners after being dried. There's a crochet workshop going on in the middle there, led by one of our longtime counselors. And then there's a collage workshop going on the right. So we know not every single part of camp is going to be everyone's favorite thing. Maybe your child is more into the physical stuff and less into the creative stuff, or vice versa. I just wanted to give kind of a more broad view of the types of things that fill the days while they're at camp.
And so going into Yunasa East, that's our later camp session program. So that one will take place in July, starting Saturday, July 11th through Saturday, July 18th. We are based in Howell Nature Center in Howell, Michigan. For this program, we also have our 10 to 15-year-olds, and it is a full leadership program. So, as I mentioned earlier, similar to Yunasa West, we have L1s and L2s, our 15 and 16-year-olds who are transitioning out of age for camp, and they'll take on a more leadership role to support any of their counselors and their campers while they're there. And this camp, we typically do have a smaller size. We have about 55 campers attend our session.
Yeah, and the leadership program used to be something that was different between the two camps. We're lucky enough that this is the first year ever that we're offering a full leadership program at both camps. So that in the past has been sometimes a factor in people's decisions. They want either they want to choose a camp where they know their camper can grow up into a leadership program without having to switch locations, or maybe they like the idea of having that leadership program built in to have those role models and have have it go a little bit older so that they know there are more people looking out for their camper. That's happening at both camps this year, so that is not a factor one way or the other. We're excited that there is so much interest and that we have such awesome role models at both camps. All right, so here's some photos of Yunasa East. The big difference camper options wise is the lake, that aqua toy we call it, the waterfront games and play structures. So that is something that is at East, but not at West. And so if you have someone who loves being in the water, then maybe East is a better fit for you. But we do have some water activities at West as well. You can see some of the other ones. Similar, there's a climbing wall, there's a zip line that goes over a pond. You can't really tell in that bottom picture, but it's beautiful. There's kayaking and stand-up paddleboarding. And then there's crate stacking as well, which I don't think I had a picture, but that is something that is at West at both camps. So. And then here's some of the downtime at Yunasa East. Or these are fellow workshops. So these are some of the indoor spaces that we have where workshops are held. The photo on the right, the bigger one, that is our dining hall as well. So it doubles as our dining hall and as our main home base and as a meeting space for workshops. So that is a space where a lot of things happen. And then the photos on the left are from, let's see, the bottom left one is they're making like window clings that go with it goes along with a meditation about what they're thankful for and what's in their heart. And then the top left is a collage kind of dream board creation workshop.
And so now that we've kind of distinguished what makes a little bit of the difference between Yunasa East and West, these are some of our these are our eligibility requirements for campers who plan to attend. We check that all of these are in order before we make our decisions on whether or not a camper is fit and ready to be at Yunasa. So kind of giving a brief overview as to how that how some of those things are. As we addressed earlier, you must meet the program age range of 10 to 15 while you're at the time of camp, unless you're identified as a leadership camper, which is primarily our 15 and 16-year-olds. Um, we also want to make sure that our campers are comfortable being away from and out of contact with family members during the duration of our program. These are technology-free zones where we try and make sure that campers and our staff and all of our team are able to connect with each other and with nature. So we don't have communications while on site, direct communications while on site at camp. Um, so we just want to make sure that if there are bouts of homesickness or if there are any worries that you have for your camper adjusting to Yunasa, that they're best prepared before they can attend. Um, we have all of this overview listed on our application. So when you start the process, you will be able to read through them each and make sure that all of your camp or all of your kids are prepared for meeting these requirements. And if you have any other questions or if you feel like you want to talk things through, you can feel free to reach out to Nicole and I at our UNASA at educationaladvancement.org email. So then we can have these conversations and determine whether or not this is a good fit for you at the time.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add on that we know that they don't have to be like thrilled with the idea. They should be excited for camp, but we know that there will be some anxiety associated because we know our population. We know they're 10. They might be anxious, but uh, really where our line is we need that anxiety to not result in us having to worry that they're going to run or hide or put themselves or others in danger, and that if they are upset at camp, that they have strategies that we know of to help get them through that homesickness. So it's this isn't us saying that we can't handle people getting homesick or being anxious about being away from their family, but we do want them to know um, kind of where that line is and have coping mechanisms and ways to regulate that fit with the camp code of conduct. Um, if you are trying to figure out whether, I know that's kind of a tough line, so we're happy to help you talk through that. Um, and we know that being away from technology is a lot. It's a big ask as well. It's tough. So if you have if you want to talk through that and what's required, we can do that. We do allow things that don't connect to the internet. So like MP3 players that would just be for playing music if they need to listen to music at night to fall asleep. Kindles that aren't that have pre-downloaded books, things like that are allowed, just not ones that will connect to the internet or messaging.
Um, as we go into our application conversations, our application deadline is on March 4th. We have our early bird deadline approaching on January 28th. So for those looking to submit their application early, our deadline is next Wednesday. You can access our application at our website, www.educationaladvancement.org. And then once you reach the website, there should be a tab at the top that says Programs. On Programs, click Yunasa Summer Camps, and then you'll find another button that says Apply Now. And then that's where you can start your form and your process. I know that we were getting also a couple of questions in terms of our admissions, of what are the requirements for camp. To be able to attend UNASA, we also had another question that said, is it a first come, first served basis, or are we qualification based? Um, we want to emphasize that while parents can submit any testing that their school or a psychologist or uh, other testing site does that determines giftedness, formalized gift assessment is not a requirement in order to attend UNASA. And families will be notified of their enrollment around mid-March once we've reviewed all of our applications that have come in. So it's not a first come, first serve basis. We take the time post our deadline to evaluate whether or not your camper is fit for our camp and whether or not you
Yeah,
feel
and mhm.
fit. Sorry, go ahead,
Yeah,
Nicole.
yeah, that's all good. I was just going to add on that um, I don't want people to worry. I want you to be honest in the application. So I guess to encourage that, so far it has been, we have not met our capacity. We've been right around our capacity, but I don't want you to worry about, putting your camper's like best shining face forward and leaving out information that would help us support them just to ensure you get a spot at camp. So we really try to get everyone in, and so far that has been pretty much possible as long as they meet those eligibility requirements. We don't get super we serve a niche enough population that we don't have so far we have not had like long wait lists or anything like that, except sometimes if we give out if after the deadline people still want to join, sometimes we've met capacity at that point. So I just don't want people to worry, but uh, I would emphasize that we would rather people be honest and give us information about their camper and why UNASA would be a good fit in helping them with the mission that we talked about. And we will do our very, very best. And so far, it has almost always been possible to get everyone in and get everyone a spot. So don't want people to have anxious thoughts about that. We're going to do our very best, and we'll get you answers as soon as possible about your admission status. Yeah, so there aren't any other strict requirements. We just want to see that UNASA is a good fit for them. They do not have to be formalized gifted. Basically, I'll have to say this program is very self-selecting. If you're here and you're hearing about this program, chances are your child is a is a good fit because of how we get referred to people. If you have more questions about that, we are happy to talk about it. We do have, we're a unique program, but we do find our way to the right people. So we have been lucky enough that we don't have to do a lot of strict admissions because the people that need UNASA are they find out about it. Um, I see the question about mixed ages. Maybe let's just like do these last two slides, Vivian, and then we'll get into real question time. Yeah. So next steps. Um, we will be sharing acceptances and enrollment materials right after the final deadline, as soon as possible afterwards. And that will also include a tuition assistance package if you applied for tuition assistance. Um, that has the same deadline as everything else, so March 4th. So if you need to apply, please do so. That link is on our website. At the time of acceptance, you will also be shared or you'll also be sent a parent handbook that includes a packing list and like answers to every question you could possibly have, as well as a form that will collect your travel plans and other things that we need for camp, like medications that your camper takes, dietary restrictions, things like that. So if you're doing the application and you're worried that you don't see that kind of stuff, uh, it will happen. It just happens at acceptance. So we will get medications, food, everything like that figured out once we see who's accepted to the program. And then we will have another meeting, a Zoom meeting, about 2 weeks before camp, where it won't be a webinar style, so we'll all be able to see each other and we'll get to know each other's faces a little bit so that you can have your camper can have familiar faces for camp. And we'll share more like time sensitive stuff at that point. So final details about travel, weather specific packing recommendations, the counselors and fellows and facilitators will have at camp, um, and emergency contact information. things like that. So all the stuff that we don't quite know yet because still several months away. All right, so we can shift into Q&A mode. I can get back to that one question I saw. We might not need the screen anymore for right now, but so camper groups. The question is, are camper groups mixed ages? We try to keep them similar in similar age ranges, but where they're more closely grouped by age is their cabin. And those psychosynthesis groups I talked about are a little bit more age diverse. We might not might probably still wouldn't do half 16-year-olds and half 10-year-olds, but they're slightly wider than the cabin. So it might be a group of, 10, 11, 12, and then another group of 11, 12, 13. And then the cabins, they're with kids closer to their own age. That's where we find it is more important to keep them more age grouped. And those psychosynthesis groups, we find benefit in having a little bit more of a range. And then, I mean, there is a lot of the time where they are kind of just picking their own groups because they're signing up for activities or they're just sitting at a table for meals. And those are opportunities to interact with kids of all ages. I hope that answered the question. Yeah, does anyone else have questions that we haven't answered? I can also think about ones that I know I usually get in the meantime, or things that I said I'd talk about later. Mm. Yes, this is a question. Is there a staff member in each cabin? There is at least one counselor in each cabin, which I realized we didn't really have a slide about counselors, but our counselors are distinct from Vivian and I and distinct from the fellows. They are former campers themselves, but ones that we have trained and gone through all the processes to make sure they are equipped to take on this responsibility. And they are in college or beyond. So they're all at least 18, but many of them are more into their mid 20s. They are in each cabin, and there's one or two, depending on the cabin size. And then there are, we are also like in the next cabin over at all times. So we're very close to everything happening and easily reached. And those counselors are there as the first point of contact, but there is a whole there's a whole support system if anyone needs anything in the night. There's nurses on site. There's Vivian and I, and then there are the fellows reachable as well. But the campers are never alone with just campers for the maybe sitting at a table across the pavilion by themselves, but they're always being supervised. If they need to go get something for their cabin, they need to go in a group of three. That's something we emphasize on the first day, three at least. We call it a truddy, like a buddy system, but a truddy system because of three. They are very well supervised at all times. And then I see that someone wants to ask a question about the mini Yunasa. Yes, while you get your question ready, I can also do a last pitch for that. We do have a virtual mini Yunasa coming up on February 7th, and that is for both brand new to Yunasa people, prospective, even if you don't know that you want to come this summer, if you're still trying to figure it out, it's for you. But we also will have returning campers there as well, and even some alum and counselors, because we're trying to replicate kind of the ratio we have at camp with some new, some returning, all different experience levels with Yunasa. So as much as we can, we squish Yunasa into 2 hours, or I guess it's 3 hours. And we just kind of hang out on Zoom and do some different activities. We do psychosynthesis. So if that's something that you're not sure if your child's going to be into, you can come check it out at the virtual mini Yunasa. I will say the deadline officially passed. And that is because we do ship some like care package items, and we wanted to be able to make sure those would get there in time. You can still sign up. There's just a slight chance that those items will be delayed. But if it's this week, I think we can get them to you in time. So I will say deadline extended if you're hearing this and you want to join have your child join the virtual mini UNASA. Um, we will get you your things. It's nothing that you can't grab yourself if they don't, or nothing that they need if it doesn't come in time. Uh, but we send a little s'more kit. We send some craft supplies for if they choose the craft option, but we always have multiple options of breakout activities for them to do, just like at camp. So I can put the link to sign up in the chat for anyone that wants to do that. Uh, hopefully, we have enough stuff for everybody. We'd love to have you. A little bit down to the wire. And like I said, that is on um, February 7th, virtually. There you go. That link is in the chat. So if you are planning to join, just sign up today, but we are going to send out the care packages tomorrow. So if you are already signed up, you can keep an eye on your mail next week. Yeah, I have I'm just going to answer a question I normally get. So, as it might be in your mind and you don't even know what's in your mind. Kind of going back to the eligibility and the no parent contact thing, I just wanted to share what we do if we do have a camper who's experiencing homesickness, and also on the parent side, what that looks like. So, even though we don't have campers talk directly to their parents on the phone or messaging, you can message us. So we will have a number for texting, and you also can email us, and we can do phone calls as well if you want to check how your camper's doing. We're running around, so I don't want. Sometimes I get nervous about saying that, and I think I don't want you to not get a response right away and think that that means that you should be worried. But as long as you kind of know that once we have a moment, we will check in or send a photo of your camper, send a sweet moment that we saw happen with them. Because I know we talk about it being hard for kids, but it's really hard for the parents as well if you guys haven't been separated for a week in the past. It can feel long. And then we also, if a camper is feeling homesick, often we'll have them write a note or drawing or something or dictate a message to you, and we would send that to you to facilitate kind of a conversation through us, so they can still hear from you without, you know, I've seen just, when it has come to once they hear your voice on the phone if they're homesick, kind of like it's just so tough to come back from that because of course they're going to feel more sad once they hear you. But if we can kind of do it through writing as much as possible, and if you can send encouragement for them to try new things, that is super helpful to have the parents on our team of encouraging the camper to get back out there, and we can even tell you things that they have coming up in their schedule that you can encourage them to look forward to. That's really helpful. There's probably more to say on that too. We also you can bring notes for each day for us to hand them out each day. You can send mail to camp. So yeah. On that note, I also see a question about parents visiting during the camp. Nope, sorry. We if a parent comes, and that would be to be done with camp. We don't have visitors. It can disrupt the magic we're trying to work. So, if one camper is homesick and sees another camper's parent visiting, that is just a domino effect of it being really tough for multiple kids. It also is just really helpful for them to have that independence and be away for the week. We know, like I know it's really hard for you all and hard for them too, and that's why we put those eligibility requirements in there that we do want the kids to be ready. Um, that doesn't mean they can't be nervous or, be sad to say goodbye, but we do want them to be ready. It's just so it's tough when kids have to finish the week early or when they and it's so powerful when even if they have struggles if they muscle through and they make it. So it's just it can be such a confidence boost. And having seen that and multiple sides of how that goes, we encourage it's just better for them, I guess, in the long run to be successful and feel like maybe it's better to wait a year and be successful rather than, have a really rough first year and be nervous to come back. So we can talk more about that because I mean, I've seen it multiple different ways and it's almost always successful. It just want it to be the right time for the right kid to come to camp. Hmm. A question about contact lenses and bathroom. So it is a shared, uh, it's a shared camp bathroom. That's true at both locations, but we have a lot of kids do contacts, so that is definitely possible. There's a big long counter in at both camps in the cabins, and one of the things they do in cabins is kind of figure out like routines for morning and evening and who showers when and how that works as part of that communal living experience. So they if that's something that your camper needs in the morning and evening, totally doable. We have counselors, campers aplenty that wear contacts. It's just um, uh, they need to figure that out with their cabin, and there's always space. It's we don't squish them in too tightly, but it can sometimes just be a conversation about making sure everyone has access. But there's a big long counter with a mirror in that it's never super crowded. Uh, we also are, if you feel like you have a situation that's particular to you and that this isn't the right format, please give us a call or email, um, during our normal like office hours during the week. So we're here usually between 9 and 5, Monday through Friday. So if you want to give us a call tomorrow with questions, we're happy to walk through more things. Or next week, yeah, if you're local and do academy classes, you can grab me anytime. If you know me, I'm happy to talk through all these steps. I know it's a lot of information and it's hard to visualize sometimes. We do our best with these pictures and with the things that we describe, but if you ever want us to try more or send pictures of something specific, we'll do our very best to help. Um, or if you have a concern about your child and you can talk to us, but we also can try to find a parent who's gone through something similar to connect you with. We've done that in the past as well. So yeah. We'll wait just like one more minute if there's any last questions, but we'll get ready to wrap up uh, any second here. All right. Thanks so much for coming. And thank you if you do trust us with your kids. We know it's a big ask, and we really love the work that we do, and we love working with this population of kids. So it's really I treasure the time at camp to get to know your kids, and we know that it's you're giving us them for the weekend. We thank you for trusting us with them, and we hope that we can give them back to you, um, you know, themselves but better, a little bit more regulated and balanced, and maybe less focused on perfectionism and all those different things that we talked about at the beginning. More connected with community, um, feeling more like they belong and there's a place for them. So we take that very seriously, and we love the work that we do. Uh, I also wanted to share these other things coming up at IEA. So we do have online academy enrichment classes. I know many of you are not local, but we have online classes. And for the age range that I would think your children would fit in by being here at a Yunasa webinar, we have a couple online classes that still have space. We have Einstein's theories on Friday afternoons, the writer's room on Saturday afternoons, and a girls in STEM class that goes up to age 12 on Thursday afternoons. So you can find information about that on our website, or you can always even email the Yunasa email address and ask to be put in touch with Academy. We're a small team, so if you reach out to one person here, your email will get to the right place if you have someone else's email address or even the general contact form on the website. And then if you happen to have a seventh grader, the Carolyn D. Bradley Scholarship is open to seventh graders to apply. This is ends up for those chosen a full high school scholarship for 4 years of high school at the best fit high school of their choice. And they apply in seventh grade, and then those selected find out before their eighth grade year and spend that eighth grade year being advised and touring schools and figuring out what the best fit is for them. So we know it's an early application, but it's so that our team can do good work and make sure the kids end up at schools that are a great fit for them. And if you're curious about that one, there's another webinar, kind of similar style as this, coming up on March 26th. So that is on our website with there's a link to RSVP there as well. And if you're on our newsletter, you will see that at the bottom. The one that just went out today had it at the bottom. All right.
I think we had a couple questions.
Do we? Oh, yes, I
Carol.
do. Oh, no, you can only apply as a seventh grader. Yeah, seventh graders only. Let me find the link for that. Um, yeah, it is a strict seventh grade only because of the funders that we have. Yes, here we go. I'm putting the webinar link. It's a really long link, but so promise it's not suspicious. Yeah, that scholarship's an amazing opportunity for the kids that get there. Oh, this is a great question. That your son is twice exceptional, gifted in slow processing speeds. Does this disqualify him from camp? I don't want anything that we shared to make it seem like I can't believe I didn't mention twice exceptionality at all in this. I'm so sorry. That is a big portion of our population. So the eligibility requirements we listed do not exclude twice exceptional kids. Slow processing speed should not be an issue at all. I mean, the main things that might come up with those with executive functioning challenges or slow processing speeds would be things that we already do our like work to accommodate. So things like we give announcements in a large room. It can be echoey, but we also have the ability for kids to sit outside and get the announcements kind of passed on that way in a less echoey environment. Other things like remembering to shower or, change clothes. So we have counselors that do a really good job of reminding campers of those kind of more hygiene, executive functioning type type things. So that definitely, I guess, based on your question, that is not a disqualification. If you're worried about specific aspects and think accommodations will be required, we are happy to talk more. But twice exceptional kids are a very large portion of who is successful at UNASA, and we're for them. So we're a place for 2E kids and gifted kids, even if they're not 2E. So if you have specific questions about your child and what that might look like, we are happy to talk more.
So like Nicole said, if you have any other questions regarding that we haven't answered already, or if you wanted to just talk about your application in general, feel free to contact me through my email as a program coordinator. So it's varceo@educationaladvancement.org. You can also call us through our phone number at 626-403-8900. And then for any questions regarding any of our programming or UNASA specifically, you can visit our website at educationaladvancement.org. Like Nicole said, we're a pretty small organization, so someone will be able to reach out and communicate back with you. A way to reach Nicole and I would be through our UNASA at educationaladvancement.org email. This is the email that you'll typically get any type of notifications regarding application status and enrollment and any type of payment information or any questions that we could answer. And some of our socials include are on YouTube. We're on YouTube at Institute for Educational Advancement and Instagram at IEA Gifted.
At Instagram and also Facebook, we share photos there during camp. We also will share a full Google Drive of photos with like every single photo that is taken at camp, so you can check throughout the week and see photos of your child. And then a more curated set, if you've agreed to photo release, will go on our Instagram. So you can follow now and start seeing some photos if you'd like. All right. Thanks so much for filling up this hour with great questions. And I see a question about getting answers on the application before March. We traditionally wait until the final deadline to make those decisions to see where our numbers are. If you are in a situation where you need to know sooner based on your summer plans, please reach out. So we know that every year planning shifts earlier and earlier. So we are working to adjust to that. But yes, if you need to know, please let us. Um, yeah. All right. Thanks so much, everybody, and have a great evening. And we hope to see your UNASA application soon and reach out if you need anything else from us. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.